I've just stopped over to see Nick's project, see how he's coming along. G60 is looking good, but she's certainly not going anywhere anytime soon. Nick, what have you been doing here?
Wasting time by the sounds of it.
Looks like there has been some progress though.
Yeah, good progress.
Like you've painted these.
Yeah.
That's good.
There's still work to be done, but they are painted.
Throw a comment below if you're happy with Nick's choice on colour.
Mint green. Yeah, there has been good progress, and I believe we're over a pretty big hurdle with this A-pillar section. First of all, we're going to jump into a bit of a different format for a few videos to see how they go. Basically, it's a real pain in the ass to try and film as you're working. I can't have the tunes on because of copyright laws, and it's not really the project that someone's probably going to just copy this to an absolute T and build one, so it doesn't need to be step by step, like cut this here, stick it here, and you'll have a G60 on a GQ chassis. Today, we're going to get into what I consider a massive hurdle on this, the A-pillar section and how it's all linked together with the GQ firewall. Heavy. Today, we're going to get into what I consider a massive hurdle on this, the A-pillar section and how it's all linked together with the GQ firewall.
You're starting to actually get something to work off now by the looks of it, so yeah, that's got to be better than a completely foreign chassis on a foreign body.
Yeah,
foreign body work.
That this has been, like, I literally was losing sleep. I'd go to bed and it would be just in my mind, like, how do I link it all in? But now that this is here, working from that, it is a lot easier.
So this is all new? Well, this looks like the original piece?
It is the original, it's the original outer skin of the G60. Also the hinges and everything from the G60, but then you get to new panels that link the G60 to the GQ. So yeah, we'll rip the guard off here. This is just sitting here. So we'll pull this skin off too.
Yeah, nothing like pulling the skin off a few.
Yeah.
A few pillars.
So basically, I'll grab a couple of my offcuts, well, not offcuts, my trial runs.
Your f-ups.
Oh, that's a better way of putting it, yeah.
A big pile out the back.
I've gone through 4 sheets of steel already. These pieces here, so I made 3 sets. This was the first set and I welded it on and I wasn't very happy with it. I made that before I had a bead roller, but that's effectively this panel in here. So it links the GQ to what's going to house the G60 structure, the main guts of it. So the first one I made is pretty well flat up and down. It doesn't have any offset as far as body widths. Now, you may be surprised to know that the G60 was actually, or is actually, slightly wider than the GQ. It's very close, like it's within 16 mil. There was about 8 mil side.
I would have definitely thought the G60 would be like 6 inches narrower.
You'd think so.
Is that...
So from sill to sill.
Does the GQ have fatter doors or?
Well, the GQ has big big flares. It has them bulky flares on it.
Yeah, okay.
So I guess that's a little bit probably that's deceptive. But yeah, I was shocked when you get to when you get to actually running the tape over it from where your sill connects and basically your door sills are on a GQ to the same parts on a G60, they're pretty well on the money. So I made this one that didn't have the offset, and then when I properly ran the tape over it, I'm like, well, this isn't going to work. I need to step my this, whatever you want to call this panel, so I'm out the same width. Just because then you've got the bonnet's the same, the windscreen's the same, your flares, like your front guards to your grille It's all the same. If I had to change that, that means I'd have to cut windscreen down the guts, bonnet down the guts, grille down the guts, and widen everything. So I feel that was just an easier way of going about it. Got this panel on there, and then worked out that I needed to widen it. So I ripped that off and I rolled a couple of these up. The only way to do that actual, well, for me in here, I couldn't do it on the brake press over there. I had to, well, I went and bought a bead roller because it will come in handy in the rest of the build to fold that Z channel up. And that was what I was thinking was the correct offset. Then I hole sawed these and joined the dots to make it double as a bit of a window if anything goes wrong with hinges, and I can get behind there still. It may be annoying, but at least it's there. And also to cavity wax all inside after it's constructed and welded. So I've folded these up, clear coat them all on, one each side, and then I'm like, I better just fit the windshield, and these were too wide. So I went back through the whole process again and made 2 new ones of these, but a fair bit nicer in the end because this wasn't made with the bead roller, so it's all a little bit like no one's going to see it, but the product in the end is much nicer. I was a bit annoyed with myself, but yeah, that was how I went about it. So after finally being happy when everything was clecoed together, if you haven't seen these, genius little tool. That is called a cleco, C-L-E-C-O. Basically, you drill for this size cleco, you drill a 1/8 hole, like a rivet bit, and you put that in it as you put it through your panel. So if there's 2 panels next to each other, that will pull in and pull your panels together. And the beauty of that is that panel goes back in exactly the same spot every time. So that is such a relatively simple tool, but so handy for panel work. For instance, I've got, I think, 40 clecos holding this whole thing together at the moment, and I had a theory in my head, and keep in mind I'm not a panel beater, I'm sort of learning a lot. If it can hold together with clecos solid, when it's all welded together, it should be Mickey Mouse, hopefully. But anyway, off track, I basically clecoed all that together, had the windshield there, and then worked out that that's sweet, I'm happy. So I also purchased a hole punch.
So Nick actually has a big cleco here. That's also a cleco that just taken over the channel.
That's not a cleco. I said we're running a comedy channel now, are we?
Yeah, I think so. This is paint colour scheme.
I bought a hole punch, so this is awesome for along seams. I made a series of holes along this panel here, punched them out with that, and then got it back where the clecos were sitting, and then ran down with C-clamps and tacked all the holes with the MIG. I wasn't happy with the TIG. I've had a couple of the TIG ones fail, which was good that I found that out now and not down the track. So hole punch, which is around about a 6mm hole, and then MIGing that, and its penetration's heaps better, and I'm confident in it. So run down, C-clamp, MIG, move the C-clamp, and just keep going down the panel, making sure everything's still straight. And then basically just go back and buff that off, and you get a pretty good lap joint there. That's sort of finished product after it's had some epoxy. There was also a little bit of rush repair, and there still is. Like, these panels aren't finished. I've purely got them in epoxy primer so they don't completely rust. Same with sills, we'll get into that later. But yeah, this whole piece was eaten away, had to be replaced. I've put more in than was from factory, altered a few other bits. But that's just general repair of what was already there. That wasn't really making something new. Moving across to the top, I've got this, and it's just a simple piece of RHS with mitered corners. And I'm not making this up, this is coming from an engineer. So he's drawn a diagram of how I should do that. It's just 25 by 50 RHS, 2mm I think it is. It's actually Duragalv. And then it's linked in the side here with a 2mm plate welded down, so it's and will eventually be spot welded to this panel we were just making. The reason for that, and same with when I pulled the GQ apart, all these, and same into your sills, all these joints are not just a direct join, like it spreads all the load, like there's more than just that 25 by 50 RHS onto that thin bit of sheet. Like the reason that big plate there is to get more spot welds into it, more strength, and spread the forces, I guess. But yeah, like I said, I'm just following the engineer's instructions on that. But yeah, that was pretty straightforward. And as soon as I got that in there, the strength was like, that's just Cleco together, and that's moving the whole chassis. So that's good confidence, and that's pretty well, that I can explain that in 10 minutes, but honestly, it took me months to really figure out where I was going with this section. It was a bit of a nightmare. I think that's pretty well it for this ep. Next episode will be sills, pressing up the sills. Bit of fun on the next one because bought a bead roller and got stuck into some sill panels.